I'm Cassia Streb with Music for Your Inbox, and today we are going to chat with Christine Shan Shan Hou, who is a poet and a visual artist. So let me invite them to join, and we will get started.
Hi, Christine.
Hi, is it Cassia or Cassia?
Cassia.
Cassia.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. It's nice to get a face.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I've been kind of admiring your work for a bit now because our mutual friend Georgia Bell connected me with your work.
Yeah.
And
Georgia's here. Hi,
oh,
Georgia.
fantastic. Hey, Georgia. Yeah, and she was just mentioning that you'd be a really good fit for one of the video artists that we were working with. And so I kind of wanted to, tell people a little bit about how our journey of connecting worked. And then I'm also really fascinated with your work because you seem to be equal parts poet and visual artist working in this collage medium. And
Yeah.
I'm just it's really neat how you've worked those two art forms together and how they connect. And yeah, I just want to hear a little more about your origin story. So I guess, if we could start with that, like how did you start out, more as a poet or more as a visual
Sure.
artist?
Yeah, I started out more as a poet. I went to school and studied creative writing and poetry and has always kind of identified as a poet first and foremost. And then I started a collage and art making practice to kind of get out of the busyness in my head of poetry. Writing is takes a lot of energy. It's a lot of emotional energy. It's like it's hard. It's just kind of like a much more tangled process. And so I started this visual practice as a way of kind of lightening the mood and bringing in some color and bringing in some tactility to the language, because language is so abstract and malleable. There's something so concrete and satisfying about cutting paper and gluing it down.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. It's like you're touching it, you're doing
yeah.
it, you're in the real world, not
Yes.
just in your mind.
Yes, because everything else is just all on the computer. It's just like words on a screen. So it's coming out of that space, literally resting my eyes from looking at a screen also, and just looking at something else kind of brought that. That's the problem with writing poetry, is you're on your like phone or computer all the time working on it, unless you're a longhand writer. So it's nice to have like a reason to close that and to just do something else.
Right. It also sounds like there's something kind of speedy about, like kind of faster about the collage process than poetry. It feels, just through what you're saying, I'm sort of hearing you say that I'm imagining it being a little bit, I always say bashy, like you're iterating and you're thinking about the poetry and you're rewriting and reworking the same little thing, whereas it feels like collage could be a little faster.
Yeah, and I think part of it has to do with glue, because you can't keep erasing what you wrote and editing again or adding to it or doing track changes or not track changes. It's very like immediately satisfying in a way. Whereas with poems, some of my drafts, I'm like, oh, that is really immediately satisfying. And others I need to kind of just let sit and then just revisit again every few X amount of seconds, minutes, days, months, years.
Yeah, you're like yours.
So I would say first and foremost, I guess I still identify. I identify as both. But they both complement my practice, and my visual art practice came much later.
Well, I noticed, so in this version and the postcard that we have, and I apologize, I'm home today with one of my kids who's sick, and so I don't actually have your postcard in my hand.
Oh, that's okay.
So now we get to describe visual art, which is everyone's favorite thing.
Okay, wait. I'm like, where do I have some extra ones. I just don't remember where I put them.
Okay, I don't want to put you on the spot. But at any rate, so in this version, we had sent you some audio and some video from this ceramic bell making artist who is also a composer and a performer, Roxanne Nesbitt. And so we wanted you, we commissioned it, I suppose, and we wanted you to make a piece that was sort of in response to what she had done and the kind of music that she makes and the sounds that she works with. And I was curious, is that something that you typically do when you start your collage work, is start from an inspiration point?
Oh, not really. I kind of just work with what's in front of me. But I do work while listening to a lot of ambient music, a lot of experimental and ambient music. So I do feel like that informs my practice, but in a way, again, that I can't that I can't really explain.
Right.
That I don't think I fully understand either.
Right. So you're not saying like I will make a piece about a tree because it's not about a tree or something. It's not like this literal connection.
Yes, it's kind of like what's in front of me, informed by my audio landscape, right? And then it kind of is an intuitive process from there. In that way, it's very similar to writing poetry.
Oh, okay. So when you're gathering kind of I have an idea of how a collage artist works that may or may not be connected to reality.
Oh yeah.
I'm a little curious. Do you move through the world and see little fragments of things and kind of collect them and have them in your studio, or how are you gathering the base materials for your collages?
So the base materials for my collages are from I buy bulks of vintage magazines from the 1950s and 60s on eBay. So they will send you like, here are the 12 issues from 1978 of Good Housekeeping or Women's Day. And so I started with like these more domestic type magazines, and then my friends who are an art collective and also run have a soap business, they emailed me and were like, we have all of these. Let me see if I have them here. We have all of these kind of books. We're moving and we need to give them away, and they kind of look like these kind of old school, and they have these really beautiful landscapes in them, and I like the text in them. So I just took all these that she gave me and I just went through them, and I did fall in love with a lot of the landscapes that I saw. Since the beginning point, so is always usually the landscape.
I see. And so you're getting like, so it sounds like they find you and you find them in a sort of roundabout way. And weird, because actually for Music for Your Inbox in a couple of weeks, we're running a collage making kind of party at a friend's like bar.
Oh, I saw that. That looks really cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. We've kind of turned ourselves into like, well, how do collage artists gather this material? And so actually that's exactly what Jen did. She went on one of those offer up things and filled a Prius with old magazines, because you can do that.
Another great place is just like, used bookstores, or there's this very old library in Vermont where I go to over the summer, and they just have old atlases, old like science books, and no one takes them. So they're just like, take what you want.
So when you're thinking about these pieces, I know we asked you to make something that was to be sent as a postcard, but how big are the actual collages you're typically making?
So they're about, let's see, what size is this one? I think this is like a 9 by 12. Hold on. I'm sorry, I could have been better prepared as well.
No, it's actually lovely to sort of.
Oh, here it is.
And, like, get this view of everything.
The collage, the original.
Right. Wow.
And so the original, let's see. Yeah, it's about 10 inches by 7.5 inches. So small. I don't have a very large studio space. If I did, I do think my work would be much bigger. But yes, I have kids. I have very limited studio space, and so a lot of my work, I want to go bigger and bigger and bigger. But I just have to be realistic with what I have.
It sounds like
we need to
get you like a residency in like a giant barn.
Yeah, but then what do I do with all the work?
I know.
So all of my collages kind of fit in these various folios, and I have ones of various sizes, and they're kind of just stored in here.
That makes sense. I totally get it. There's like these practical constraints going into it.
Yeah.
So when you because for our postcard, we put some of your poetry on the other side, which was such a huge thing for us, because typically we're including like program notes or something, but we like it when the art is just talking to the art. Like that's our favorite. And of course we can't expect every postcard artist to also be a poet.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm just thinking because it's a haiku, so I'm thinking like, are you when you're writing your poetry, are you like is that a typical format you're using? Because I was looking online and all the poems I was reading were more kind of what I would consider normal poems.
Yeah, right.
Like not following a form
yeah.
that is
Okay,
traditional.
so I have my relationship with haiku is kind of interesting. The last book I put out, each section was divided with a section that was called the Lost Haikus, and they kind of served as like pauses in my book. Um, but for me, when I feel really stuck when I'm writing, I kind of I sit down and make myself write a haiku because it comes out so easily for me. I don't know
Huh.
why. It kind of just like, I don't know if it's like the limit. I think it's the limitation, the making it focus on one thing. Um, and so looking at that, it just kind of came very simply to
Yeah,
me.
that's really neat. So it's sort of we did this video last year with an artist named Sharon Shohei Kim, and she called it Unstuckness Practice, and she's a vocalist,
Ah,
and she's
yeah,
developed
yeah.
this practice of like really vigorously shaking.
Oh,
It's
oh
sort of
yes.
based in like a somatic tradition and
Yeah,
stuff. But I
yeah.
like this idea of all of the artists. We just had these processes to kind of like shake it loose, and then for
Yeah.
you that would be a haiku is kind of interesting
Yeah.
because it is following a lot of rules, but then you're right, it
Yeah.
kind of forces you to kind of be speedier and quicker.
Yeah. And I do the same thing with my collage practice because I'll be going through stuff and cutting all this random stuff up, and I'm like, this is good, this is good. And then it's just kind of scattered in a pile on my desk, and so I put it in a Ziploc bag. Anyway, it's just like all these Ziploc bags of random things that I've cut up that I'd like, and I just say, okay, you can only make a collage with these. And
Oh, I see. Okay,
so
so
I
it's your
also,
like personal editing process kind of.
yeah, well, that's just another, yeah, it's also just giving myself limitations allows me to expand in other ways.
Hmm.
Because
Hmm.
otherwise I become paralyzed by my own indecision.
Right. Yes, you're absolutely not alone in
Yeah.
that, as you know from having spoken to at least one other artist.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
That's neat. These are really cool strategies
Yeah.
for getting unstuck, and because I've noticed that you're pretty prolific. I mean,
Oh,
you've written a
thank
substantial amount of work, so I think that this practice is probably really working for you.
It is. It really is. Like I said, I kind of came to visual art much later, and I've become like a very avid experimental and ambient music listener.
Mm.
I would say for the past 7 years or so, I've been like really, really into it. So really, really into it. I've just been been exploring these soundscapes that, in a thoughtful and in a different way than I used to when I was younger
Hmm.
and prior to my making art.
Right. Well, I could see how if are you listening it while you're writing as well, or is it exclusively through the
No,
collage work?
sometimes I listen while I write. It's all ambient, but it's too noisy with writing. With the collage
Hmm.
work, yeah, I'll put a book on tape or I'll listen to ambient music.
Right, right. Yeah, well, I could imagine having any kind of other words being sung or spoken while you're trying to create your own words being like next to impossible.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
just because it's so loud inside, and so you
Hmm.
want to quiet on the outside.
Hmm.
And with making collages, um, it's a little quieter on the inside, despite the color and the shapes and all that, the glue and all that stuff. Um, so it's nice to have a little stimulation from the outside.
Right, right. So how are you finding the experimental and ambient music you're listening to? Are you going to live shows? Are you following
I
certain
find a
artists?
lot on Bandcamp,
Hmm.
SoundCloud, a lot of it through social media.
Right.
I'm not going to, I did just go to a Sarah Davachi concert
Hmm.
at MoMA last year that was amazing.
Hmm.
But otherwise, I have two little kids. I don't really, I
No,
can't really go out. So
I mean, that's what
I,
music for your inbox is for.
yeah,
People who are home and
exactly.
want art to come to
Yeah,
them.
yes,
So
exactly.
we
So
understand.
I have friends who are musicians,
Hmm.
and most of my friends are artists and writers, and all the weird people talk to each other.
Yep, I totally get it. We find one another. I'm kind of curious if you don't mind sharing, like, what are you up to now? Like, what's your sort of next project that you're working on?
So right now, I am doing a project with a visual artist named Nadia Haji Omar, and we were invited to participate in a show of queer and non-binary and women artists from the kind of Asian diaspora, and it's being hosted by this queer Vietnamese collective. So I have been writing poem responses into her drawings and paintings. Her drawings are much smaller, they're very detailed, intricate, very much based around handwriting and asemic writing. So that's the project that I'm currently working on. And I started, when I did the music for your inbox piece, I incorporated thread, which I did like long time ago. I used those in my old collages. So I started to bring those back, and I'm working on these, let me get this. I'm working, nice, I have these right here, on these kind of poem texts.
Oh, wow.
And the text inside is a fortune cookie, fortune. Right. On the other side of the fortunes, they have a phrase or a word that tells you how to say it in Chinese. So, here's one, be invited. And then I did this one the other day thinking about my sad friend, anxious son. Wow. So I'm not really sure if they're working. I'm still playing around with them, but that's, I like reincorporating the thread into my work. It involves a certain level of patience that I think I could use. Because the threading, it's like you have to be so careful with the holes and the thickness of the paper and all that stuff.
Oh, yes, because it's not like actual fabric where you can just get a different swatch. It's like, no, this is the specific image that if I ruin it, it's done.
If there's a hole there, there's just going to be a hole there. Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's a lot of commitment. Like the first poke.
And then let's see, the other thing I'm working on, I'm an amateur classical pianist, so I play a lot of music on the piano. I was just practicing downstairs. So that, and I'm a yoga instructor, and my other big practice and project is meditating and practicing every day. So those three things I usually always have simmering somehow going
project on the go. That's really neat. It's neat to get to know you and to understand how I can see how all of these things are funneling into your visual art and your poetry. You know what I mean? Like they're all they all kind of pointing at the same thing.
Yeah, they all kind of speak to me inside, and I'm just trying to find a way of channeling it out.
It's great. It's really it's inspiring. Thanks for being so open and honest and
absolutely
generous, because I think a lot of people who are, following us, or people who are subscribers, and the artists that we serve are kind of part of this community, and we're all sort of sharing information and sharing practices and sort of strategies and stuff like that. And I know I feel inspired. I mean, I don't know if haikus are going to be my thing. But
I didn't think they would be mine, and then I got introduced to another form called the tanka, which is similar, very structured, but it's longer, and I've been trying to do that, and I'm like, this is like, my brain does not process, can't do it. It's like way too long for me to follow that many rules in a lot of ways.
Right. Is it closer to like iambic pentameter or something, or is it?
Yeah, it's like 4 syllables, 7 syllables, like 5 syllables, and then like another stanza of different. It's multiple stanzas. I think that's what threw me off about it. It's like one day I'll get myself to write a sestina again, but not anytime soon.
Maybe not today. Yeah, that doesn't sound like uplifting, inspiring. I'll just do it real quick.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be thinking of you at our collage event, and we're going to absolutely show one of your postcards as sort of like an inspiration point for people to do their work. We were inspired, and we've collected some yarn and thread, hoping that other people can try that along with the magazines. And anyhow, it's been really great to work with you and to get to see your art. And people can still, it's available on our website and on this link tree everywhere. We can send them. I mean, I sent them to you.
Yeah,
you can send them postcards in the mail. It's kind of a novelty. It's really lovely.
Yeah, I have my little pile of them to send to some friends also.
Oh, great! That's wonderful. Yeah, yeah. It's a really nice treat to get them in the. My husband gets them in the mail, and I'm delighted even though I sent them. So
that's sweet.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Christine.
Yeah, you're welcome.
To see you in the art world
be in
sometime
touch
soon.
in the ethers through the ethers if we don't get in touch in person.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Take good care,
Cassie, and thank you, Georgia.
Yeah, thanks, Georgia. Bye.